What's up, YouTube? It's the Action Figure Grader, and I've got 3 vintage Trilogos that I wanted to unbox that just returned from grading with Collector Archive Services. They were on quite a journey in terms of time frame, but we finally got those back from CAS, at no fault of CAS's, by the way. It was mainly mail strikes, so we'll dig into all the details on that. And you know, before I show you the first one, I wanted to show you the only Baradas that were in my collection prior to getting one of these back. And I had 2 loose graded vintage static unarticulated 1980s Polish bootleg Baradas. These are the 2 that were in my collection. This one is graded CAS 75. This was just basically an all brown one. I think this is actually the very first Polish bootleg I ever bought. What an ugly one to start with, but I'm pretty sure that this is the first one I ever bought. Maybe, I don't know, probably 5 or 6 or 7 years ago, but there he is, and that one again is graded 75. And then I have this one that I picked up, I believe, from Jacob Przynski, who is the author of the Polish bootleg book. This one's got very bright orange hands and blue paint for the boots, along with an aqua bandana. You know, got some white paint accents and things like that. This one is graded 75, unarticulated brown and blue boots. So those are the only 2 I had until now, and I picked up 3 Trilogos as part of an epic sale that happened in December over on Dark Side Alliance on Facebook. They are a UK-based group run by Gaz and Terry Kai, and they got in, I'm talking, they had 30 of them. I mean, it was a bunch of them, and it was a feeding frenzy, and I was only able to get 3 of them. And the grades were, they were kind of so-so, but I at least want to show them to you. One of them turned out great. One of them turned out kind of as expected. One of them kind of came in a little bit low, and that one is this one. This is my first ever licensed Barada, believe it or not. So this is actually my first ever mint on card last 17 figure. And this is the Barada, pretty great looking card image there. All of the last 17 on the Trilogos had that barcode, according to Blacked Out Ewok's fellow YouTuber. I didn't know that until he told me that a while back. So this is an unpunched example. It did have some card wear to it, and so I was expecting about a 75 plus. And it did come back with a 75, unfortunately. So the card damage was just a little bit too much to overcome. I knew that the blister was an 80, and I figured that the figure score would get an 85, which they both did, but the card got a 75, and that brought the overall score down. What's unique about this one that you'll see on the grading label there, it's got the Dutch Clipper catalog on the back, so I'll show you that. Some of the Trilogos had that catalog attached to the back of the card, but a pretty nice looking example. He's kind of being wedged up there inside the blister by his force pike, or, you know, Jabba's staff, and it's kind of caught underneath his armpit there, so he's kind of like levitating inside the blister. So I'm sure I could shake him loose if I cared, but I don't. But anyway, this is a nice looking Trilogo example. Again, it's unpunched, really clean looking. It presents a lot better than a 75, but I knew it was close. I knew it was close to either 75 or 75 plus, but it did get the overall 75. And the main culprit is up here on the card here. You can see a pretty pronounced spider vein that doesn't really break color too badly, and it's mainly only on the back, but that was kind of the main culprit. And here is the back of the card with that Dutch Clipper catalog. So this is kind of a unique one. Some of them did have these catalogs attached to the back of the card. I couldn't tell you which ones had it and which ones didn't, but you can see right there at the bottom, Clipper, Benelux, Amsterdam, Brussels, Division of General Mills Products. So it's kind of a cool little catalog that showed you some of the items that were available at the time. And, you know, this is the first time I've ever gotten one of these Trilogos with that Clipper catalog attached to the back of the card. So very cool item, kind of a unique item, and certainly a nice addition to my Trilogo run. I think now I've got like 23 or 24 Trilogo card backs. So very, very awesome run I've got going. Now, the backstory is on these that I picked these up in December of last year, but the Royal Mail was on strike, and so Terry couldn't. Terry, who runs along with Gaz, he runs Dark Side Alliance on Facebook. He couldn't ship them out to me. They weren't doing any international shipping in the UK, and I said, no problem. I don't particularly care. Just whenever they get here is when they get here. And he finally did ship them in January, and then they arrived in late January, and I sent these off. And it was good timing, actually. It worked out pretty perfectly, because I think it was January 18th or 19th when Collector Archive Services started running their 30-day turnaround special for standard-sized mint-on cards. So it worked out perfectly because I was able to get them in, and then I think the next day or the day after, CAS announced that 30-day turnaround time thing. So I went ahead and sent them in. I think I sent them in the very first day that they announced the turnaround time special. So these were turned around. I think they arrived at CAS's facilities somewhere around late January, and they were finished in late February. And, it might have been March, somewhere in that time frame. But anyway, it was about 30 to 40 days turnaround time for these from CAS. So it was perfectly fine, given that the typical turnaround time for mint-on cards is more like 3 or 4 months right now at CAS. So anyway, that one turned out great. The next one is another addition to my bounty hunter run for Dengar. And this Dengar went up for sale on Dark Side Alliance, and I've just had a lot of trouble trying to find a Trilogo Dengar. And I knew when Terry sent me some photos of these, and I knew it would not grade particularly high, but I think it was worth going ahead and picking up, especially at the price that he sold it to me for, a very fair price. And I was figuring about a 75, potentially a 70 plus for this one, because it did have some kind of blister dings at the top of the blister there, which is a common problem with these very fragile blisters. Some denting on the side there. And also, it also had a lot of edge wear. There was some edge wear right here, and then at the bottom of the card there. So I knew that this was at best a 70 plus or a 75. It did end up getting the 75 grade. So the card actually got an 80, which I was surprised by, given the heavy edge wear on it. I thought it was more like a 75. The blister, I was a little bit concerned that it would get a 70 grade for the blister, because it was pretty pronounced dings all around the blister. But they took mercy on me. In general, the shape of the blister is pretty good. It's not like any major dents. It's just a lot of little small ones. So they did give me the 75 on the blister, and then the figure score got an 85 for an overall 75. So barely eked out a 75. But I'm very happy with that score. It was on the border for me between a 70 plus and a 75, and luckily it was just over a 75 grade. Now this is the Hong Kong Dengar. You can tell, number one, it says made in Hong Kong, which that's not always the case where the card back says made in Hong Kong. It's not always the case that it's a Hong Kong figure inside. Sometimes there are PBP figures, and there are Trilogos for Dengar that are the pale face, dark purple armor Dengar, PBP, made in Spain. But this is the Hong Kong version. You can tell it's definitely not the Spanish figure. That's one I would like to get at some point. I don't know if I'm ever going to be getting any more mint-on cards for a while. I've had a lot of them here recently, between the Hakes big lot I bought, and then these 3 that I picked up from Dark Side. So I think my front end of my year is fairly heavily loaded with mint-on cards. So I don't expect to get many more this year, if any at all. But if I do see one come up that's in really good condition, that is the PBP Dengar, I probably would buy it. I would try to make that happen by selling off some stuff. Here's the back of the card. The other big detractor for the card was this crease here. So that's why I was a little surprised it got the 80 score, between the light edge wear that I showed you around the edges on the front, and then this crease down here. But they took mercy and gave it an 80 sub score. It's probably, in my opinion, more like a 75, but not going to complain at all with that score. I think this is deserving of an overall 75 for sure at best. But pretty nice addition. And this is my 5th Dengar, believe it or not. I've got 2 41 back E's with different factory codes. I've got the 41 back A with the free survival kit offer. And I've got the 48 back transition card Return of the Jedi with the free Neon offer. So this is number 5, the Trilogo. So very cool to have a nice run going for Dengar. And that one turned out pretty great. And the score on that one was about as expected, if not a little bit high. The next one goes along with my only other mint-on card Darth Vader. This is a Lily Letty made in Mexico for the U.S. market Darth Vader that I've had in my collection for a while. And I've shown it on the channel a long time ago. Archival case, graded 85, 85, 85, 90 are the sub-scores on that one. Pretty nice looking example. This is a punched example. And as we've talked about in my market updates at length, the backs of these made for the U.S., but made in Mexico card backs are much more matte finish, not nearly as glossy and shiny as the U.S.-made Kenner card backs. So, and as we talked about, it's got the Made in Mexico label down there, and then it also does have that factory punch that's going right through the O on Return of the Jedi on the back. But a beautiful Lily Letty Darth Vader for the U.S. market that's graded AFA 85. That's one of the early mint-on cards I ever bought, and I paid a lot for it. But the next one is the Trilogo. So this is the last of the figures I'm going to show you in this one, but this Trilogo Darth Vader came up for sale, and I was very lucky to land this one because it was, as I mentioned, it was a feeding frenzy with these Trilogos that they had for sale on Dark Side. I mean, they had literally, I would say, about 30 of them, and I kept losing. I tried to get the Leia Bouche. That one was in fantastic condition, and I put it in a claim, but somebody beat me milliseconds before that. But this one, I beat the gentleman that his name is Mark. He also claimed this one, but it was about milliseconds before or after I claimed it. So he got the Bouche, I got the Vader, and I'm actually really happy I got the Vader. I couldn't have afforded both of them. And this Vader is pretty fantastic, just an absolute gorgeous card, and it looks great next to the alternate image Darth Vader. We got the Darth Vader pointing, which is the alternate image, and this is kind of the standard picture of Darth Vader. It's set back a little bit more than the standard U.S. cards, I believe. That's usually the case with these Trilogos, is that the standard card images on the Trilogos either have some airbrushing or they're set back a little bit further than the standard U.S. cards. But nice to have the alternate image along with the original image on the Trilogo, and it's just a beauty. It is a stunner. Here are the grades on it. It came back with a card score of an 80. The blister got an 80, and the figure got an 85. I was hoping for an 80 plus on this one. So this one did come in a little bit lower than expected, but CAS does grade these Trilogos pretty harshly. In my personal opinion, AFA and UKG grade Trilogos a little bit looser than CAS does. So, an 80 or an 80 plus, I don't particularly care, but it's a gorgeous example. You can see how clean that blister is. There's one little tiny ding up here in that corner, but that is really about it. It is otherwise pretty much a perfect blister on that one. The card back's got some very, very light edge wear over here in the corner and at the top and things like that, but give me a break. This is a stunner of a Trilogo Darth Vader and one of the prides of my Trilogo collection. It's just a real beauty, and very, very happy with that one. So these are the three that I picked up back in December from Dark Side Alliance over on Facebook. They do a great job, but with all the Royal Mail strikes that were happening in December, I had to wait for quite a bit to get them, and then obviously I had to send them in for grading, and they just got back to me here in the third week of March. But awfully nice to have all three of those in my collection. And as always, I did put together a short slideshow with some photos of these beautiful mint-on cards, along with a close-up of the grading label for those of you interested. That's all I really had for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll be back soon.